It's the Sports Peninsula podcast coming up. We're previewing the Josh Taylor versus Teofimo Lopez clash on June 10th, Saturday night at Madison Square Garden for the WBO and Ring Magazine Junior Welterweight Championships. We're also going to look back on the Devin Haney versus Vasiliy Lomachenko clash a few weeks ago that ended in a unanimous decision win for Haney. Did the judges get it right? We'll discuss that and more next. Now, here is your Sports Peninsula team.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Fight Night episode of the Sports Peninsula podcast. Andy Shield here, joined by two of the best gentlemen on the air, Chops and Drew. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Real good, Coach.
Fantastic.
Fantastic to hear that. It's absolutely fantastic to hear that. Well, second time that I've gotten a chance to do a boxing episode. And, Drew and I grew up watching fights, and, Drew lived out in the sticks, so he didn't have cable TV. I'm the guy that got the HBO, but, Drew knows exactly, he can remember some guy, calling him up, I think around 11:30 one night with some news that one Buster Douglas had knocked out Mike Tyson. And
the irony of that, Coach, is I actually did watch that fight, and it was an accident.
At grandmother's house or something.
Yeah, it was an accident.
Yeah.
I just didn't even know it was on.
That one was one that I thought I was going to have some news for old Drew, but he just so happened to be in the confines of Sterling Heights, Michigan, earlier that evening.
Nope.
And the crazy part, the crazy thing about that, as soon as you said got a call at 11:30, I knew. Where I swear on everything I love and hold dear, I knew where you were going because I had a buddy. Now, in my hometown, everybody has a nickname. My friend's name is Marty Ham. We call him Hammer. I was at my buddy's house, Joseph Morlacki. We call him Joe Mack. I'm at his house, and he calls and says, Tyson lost. Fellas, he lost on a Saturday night. I didn't go to school until Wednesday. I was in mourning. I didn't go to school until Wednesday. I couldn't believe it.
That was a shock.
Believe it, man. Yes.
That was a shocker.
Yeah, I mean, it was just eerie. I mean, his dominance into now they're like got kind of like water balloons they're putting on his, it just seemed everything seemed different. And lo and behold, Buster.
But if you remember, Tyson got knocked down in camp leading up to that fight. And I remember that being in the news. He got knocked down by a sparring partner in camp. And they're like, that's never happened. That's never happened. But it goes to show when the leather's flying, anything can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why, this sport is so phenomenal still. I mean, it's so heralded because these things do happen. Guys, we talked a few weeks ago about right prior to the Devin Haney, Vasiliy Lomachenko fight, and we broke that down in some depths. What are your thoughts with the outcome of that one, Chops?
Okay, I don't want to contradict myself, but here's the thing. I thought Lomachenko won, but maybe because I'm more of a Lomachenko guy than Haney. But if you want to give it to Haney, because and I say this, let's be honest, we know boxing is a business. If you want to believe you can sell Haney better, he's younger, the more whatever, okay. If you want to give that fight to Haney, okay. But when I heard some of the scores, one score had Loma losing by 2 or 3 points. It was ridiculous. So I thought Loma won. I had Loma winning it. But if you wanted to give it to Haney, okay. But I was ticked off. I can't remember what judge it was, but he had Lomo losing by 2
Dave Moretti.
Okay, and I was like, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Then that's why boxing's losing fans, and you have that. And it used to be Adelaide Byrd, but now Moretti's going to do that, man. Her ridiculous score, and that was crazy.
You took away my Freudian slip joke there, Chops. I was going to bring her up, but I'll be honest, Coach. I predicted the fight would go to Haney. I almost predicted the scoring. I had 115, 113 on 2 cards. I actually thought it'd be a majority decision. I thought, and honestly, I would have bought into that. And I agree with you, Chops. I had Loma winning this fight because I scored it straight up. I didn't take into account, okay, Haney's the champ. I didn't take that into account. I just scored it straight up. I had it 116, 112. I agree with you, Chops. I don't think Loma did enough, and I totally get why people thought Haney won the fight, because to beat the champ, you got to win a little bit decisively, just a little bit. And I don't believe in my heart of hearts Haney won any round decisively.
No.
Now, here's my problem with Moretti. And people have said, I had to get taught down off the ledge because I called it robbery initially. I'll step back from that a little bit. It wasn't robbery. However, when people say, well, if you give him the 10th round, which was a decisive, the 10th and 11th rounds were decisive rounds for Loma. Moretti gave the 10th to Haney. That's it. I cry foul right there. Well, if you give him that round, it's still 115, 113. I don't give a damn.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Because what other rounds did you corrupt?
Yeah. But not to cut you off, D, but I also blame Loma's corner. Because Loma, I don't know if that's a lie. I don't know if his corner told him you're winning, you can ease off in the 12th.
Haney's corner did.
Okay, but
they told him he was ahead.
But I thought Loma was going to, and again, maybe it's a testament to Haney. I don't know, but I never saw Loma turn it on and become that dog. Yes, the 10th, 11th were decisive for him, but I just thought he was going to turn into that dog at some point around 7 or 8. But I just didn't see it. I just didn't see it. So again, I don't have a problem with it saying Haney won. I think they should run it back with saying Haney won. I think they should run it back. But Moretti's scorecard, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
That's disappointing. That's a veteran judge too. We've heard Dave Moretti's name for years.
Yes, years.
And maybe we shouldn't anymore, at least in the realm of boxing. Maybe time to call it a career. I don't know. I didn't dig that at all, Coach, at all. You want to give Haney the fight. I agree, but come on. If you're gonna do that, you could have easily, if you wanted to, you could have given either fighter any of the first 4 rounds. They were that close. Nobody did anything decisive. There were no huge punches landed. I'm not saying they weren't busy, because they were. It was just a good fight. And I agree, Chops. Loma would turn it on for a 30-second spurt every round, and then that was it. And we talked about that. We said that the eye test is going to say Loma landed the bigger punches, but the ConcuBox numbers are going to favor Haney. And I think that's exactly how it turned out.
And you know what? And again, and I don't, it wasn't so much giving it to Haney, but like Moretti, as you said, don't forget, fellas, there was a time when they certain establishments tried to show you the scoring round after round. Remember when Ferdy Pacheco and they say, oh, well, I have it, and they scored. I wish they would do that now with judges, because I'd like to know, and like you said, Moretti gives Haney the 10th round. Are you kidding me? Seriously? I understand all the judges are sitting on different sides of the ring, but I don't care what side of the ring you were sitting on. That's not Haney's round. Not Haney's round.
And that's why I cried foul immediately. I'm just like, come on, guys. But realistically, looking back on it, I don't have a problem that Haney won the fight. I don't think Loma did enough to decisively win, but I did have it in his favor at the end of the day. But this is boxing, and I can remember back in the day, guys. We always talk about the past, but I remember how angry some of my family and friends were about the Hagler-Leonard decision.
Oh, without question.
And
I was one of them.
Yeah, and I mean, Leonard won it on the cards, but Leonard didn't do nearly enough to decide. He didn't decisively beat Hagler. Many would argue he didn't beat him at all, but he did enough on the cards. And Hagler, unfortunately, let the first 4 rounds basically go by him, and that's what hurt him. It's too bad. But you know what? We got another fight to talk about.
We sure do. And this one's got a little bit, seems like there's a little more panache. I don't know if it's just the way it's being promoted. ESPN's doing more with it, whatever the case may be. But yeah, in the lightweight class, we're not going too far away from the Loma Devin Haney crew. In fact, you could use Lomachenko in some of his past fights with these opponents. We're talking about Josh Taylor. Get that out. And we are talking about Teofimo Lopez, 2 gentlemen that have shown to not be the fondest of one another. And it seems like they're kind of rolling with that a little bit. Josh Taylor, the champion, left-hander out of Scotland. And the orthodox fighter, Teofimo Lopez, from Brooklyn, New York, with one loss on his record. These two, these aren't the most active fighters as far as record. We have Josh Taylor, 19-0, 13 knockouts. Teo Lopez, 18-1, 13 knockouts. So combined record between the two fighters, 37-1, 26 knockouts. Initial thoughts, Drew. Where do you what just as an overview, if you were to describe this fight to the layman, what are we getting into here?
Great question, Coach. It's for the WBO and Ring Magazine Junior Welterweight Championships. Couple hungry guys. Taylor's 31, like you said, and Lopez is 25. Lopez is a guy and Chops, correct me if I'm wrong, I get the feeling they're trying to fast track him. I really do. Vegas and the promoters and such. And it's a real interesting fight because it's not so much a contrast in styles, but it kind of is in a way. Taylor, I think, is a little more scientific, and Lopez maybe a little more heavy-handed, although they both have 13 knockouts. But this is going to be an interesting battle, and I'm not sure. I'll save my predictions for the end of the talk here. But Chops, I'd like to know your thoughts because this one I'm excited about it, but they're both kind of enigmas in the sense of how they're going to fight each other, in my opinion.
Okay. I agreed with both of you because, Coach, when you started out, you're talking about how it looks exciting. You had talked about how they were D were talking about how they were fast tracking Timo. Fellas, it seems like it was years ago. I mean, decades that he and Loma fought. It wasn't even 3 years ago. It just seemed so long.
Yeah.
But when I started, fellas, and Coach, you made a great point. I don't even know if you realize it, how ESPN is hyping this up. Fellas, do you realize they're fighting in Madison Square Garden, the Mecca of boxing, but they're fighting in the small ballroom? They're only selling 4,000 tickets. They're not fighting in the main ballroom. They're in the main arena. Nobody realizes that, but that is how Coach talked about. Mm-hmm. How they're hyping it up, and they thought about this. Yes, I thought they were fast tracking Timo coming into the Loma fight, but since the Loma fight, he's lost to Kambosos, had a TKO in the 7th round, and he had a split decision, which he got booted because he also got knocked down against Martin. So he hasn't looked good in his last bout against Martin. Yeah. Taylor got home cooking when he beat Catterall.
Oh, yeah.
He got that home cooking decision. You know what I mean? So to me, both of these guys in their last few times out have stepped back. So I'm looking for it to be interesting because somebody needs to come up and take their opponent by the throat. So, you know what I mean? So that's why I'm looking for it. And as you mentioned, styles, I don't think on one hand they could be more in the complete antithesis of each other. And I say that because, yes, Taylor is the more boxer, the more skill set boxer. But I think Timo, either they both have 13 knockouts, I think Timo throws the heavier hands. But I think Taylor is longer, and I think he's going to have to stay on the outside, fight him on the outside, which we thought Ryan was going to do against Tank. Didn't work out that way. No. But I think Taylor would best be served fighting Timo from a distance and making Timo hop in as he does. And we've seen Timo hop in and get caught with right and left hooks. So that I'm interested to see how this plays out.
Yeah. You mentioned that the length, and he got about a close to 2-inch reach advantage, a 2-inch height advantage too. He's 5'10", and Lopez is 5'8". So yeah, use what the good Lord gives you, to your advantage.
Absolutely.
And that's what you got to do. Now, it's going to be interesting because if I'm Lopez, I'm going to try and lure him into I want to slug it out. I think personally Lopez is trying to channel as much anger, hatred, anything he can get to come at him, because I think no matter what he says, he's got respect for Taylor without question. Taylor needs to be very focused and he needs to control those emotions. That could hurt any fighter, and in any sport you're in. If you let your emotions dictate what you're going to do, you're gonna be off a little bit. Now, you could be scary too at the same time, but Taylor's too good. Lopez is going to have to control the emotions. And I don't know, Chops, I don't know what you think. Do you think what we're seeing, because Coach mentioned it before we came on the air, they were being separated. They didn't even let them go face to face at the press conference today. I don't know how much of that's bravado and real. I'm not sure.
Well, here's the thing. Team also, I thought they were, as you said, fast tracking. Going back a few minutes, I thought, yes, they were trying to fast track Timo before the Loma fight, but he and his dad and they've had some antics as of late to where they may think, actually, if Taylor wins, boxing wins a little more. And I say that because they can get money from him fighting big names here. They can make money, big names fighting over the pond, where I don't know if they get that with Timo. However, I don't know how much bravado it is, this, that, and the third. But I think about this. Taylor is 31. He has seen some things. So if Timo comes in and lets his anger truly get the best of him, and your boy Taylor can stay inside his phone booth on the aspect of don't get outside yourself, don't overthink it, Taylor cannot get in his feelings. He cannot get upset. He cannot get riled. If he can stay there, pop the jab, fight at a distance, I think he's going, if Taylor ends up winning this, it's going to be because, number one, he stayed smart, and number two, he caught Timo coming in as Timo hops in. Fellas, I was watching some old Timo fights, last couple fights, whatever have you, clips here and there. He doesn't work in behind the double jab like a shorter opponent should, as much as you think he does. I don't know if that's his father and his corner not training him to do that and him not listening. I don't know what it is. Is it this corner not train him, or do they try to train him, but come fight time, he doesn't listen, he does what he wants? I don't know. You know what I mean? But I do think if he just does that hopping in, trying to get, catch somebody with a loop in hand, I think Taylor going to sit down on his punches, block it, and come with a straight left. He's southpaw. It could be interesting. It really could be interesting if they let feelings get in this. It really could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got left versus right hands, and that could get real interesting. Yeah. Chops, a little twofold one for you.
Okay.
31 years of age, Josh Taylor, the Tartan Tornado. 19 fights. Now, Roberto Duran, I know we're talking about a different era and those kinds of things, but Roberto Duran, by the age of 31, had about 65 fights in him, maybe 70.
Coach, you're right. And if you remember, I talked about this with Loma, because Loma had less fights technically than Devin Haney, pro fights.
Yeah.
But he had, now I'll be honest with you, I don't know what Taylor's amateur background is.
Right.
But Loma had an extensive amateur background. That's where he learned. I don't know what Taylor's amateur background is. However, at 31 and only having 19 fights, even if he has an extensive amateur background, he might have learned a lot, but his body did not take that extensive beating that Duran's took by the age of 31. So he's a different 31. You know what I mean? So I'm interested to see how that plays. I'm interested to see how does he come back from the Catterall fight. That's going to be, fellas, that's going to be huge. You know what I mean? Does he stay within his game and say, I need to win this, move on? Or is he going to try to do something that's not him, try to impress, and end up getting caught? You know, that's what I'm interested to see.
Second part for you, Chops, is this, and this leads right up into what you just kind of stated. You know, Taylor's kind of a noted baiter. He's a baiter to open things up. He's a baiter to get you off balance. He's a baiter to get you to counter on nothing. And those that are ready for that, typically, it can kind of, lend it to some inactivity at times because they're just not going to take that bait. And I'm looking at, Catterall, split decision, Jose Carlos Ramirez, unanimous, and then Regis Pergaras was a majority decision. So you had all three varieties of types of decisions for Taylor these last three fights, or some of his signature fights. not last three, but his last one was Catterall. But
Yep.
you have a guy here that seems to fight close fights.
Yeah. Well, fellas, and again, I understand he has 13 knockouts, but let me ask you guys something. Okay, if I were to say who has the better skill set, could we all agree it's Taylor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Overall, yeah.
But when I say who has more power, can we all agree it'd be Timo?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Exactly. But they both have 13 knockouts. Now, my thing is Taylor's look at competition. You know, you don't want to talk down anybody's competition, but Taylor's not a one punch out knockout guy. He's not. He's not Duran. He's not Tyson, guys we mentioned earlier. Lopez has some of that power. Now, again, and the last question I want to ask you guys, when it comes down to it, will you say who's ever corner gives their fighter the best advice will win, or the fighter that sticks to the advice? And I say that because if you would like to believe, I hate to say this, I don't see Lopez's dad he's no Eddie Futch. You know what I mean? He's not Eddie Futch. So he's not Angelo Dundee. He's not given that. Neither is Catterall's, or excuse me, Taylor's. Mm-hmm. So we don't expect a whole lot of wisdom coming from each corner, but they're going to try to see what they say. But now if Lopez says, you know what, to heck with that, throw caution to the wind, I'm coming out throwing bombs. If he doesn't listen to his corner, fellas, and let's not forget, he's a New York guy. They're fighting in New York. He didn't look good in his last fight. He's now home. Is he going to try to show out? Taylor didn't look good against Catterall. What, you think I got home cooking? Well, I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to beat you in your home. You know what I mean? How Haney went to Kambosos twice and beat him. You know what I mean? So, I can't. Fellas, neither one of these guys look good in their last fight, but for some reason, I'm so hyped for this fight. I'm ready.
Yeah.
Man, I'm ready.
Drew, Teo Lopez, Chops articulated so well. He's fighting, in his backyard. He's fighting at Madison Square. Teo hails from Brooklyn. If it was Barclays, it'd be truly his backyard.
Yeah.
But he's fighting over at the Mecca of boxing, though, in Madison Square Garden. 18-1. We just mentioned it. We talked about it. 3 signature fights, and it kind of goes along with our previous podcast. Vasiliy Lomachenko was an opponent of Teofimo Lopez, which we mentioned in that episode as well. And Teo Lopez beat him in a unanimous decision. Comey was a big fight for him, and he does have a loss, Drew. The loss to George Kambosos. Can you expound upon that?
Yeah. Classic letdown. I mean, he came off a huge win, a shocking win over Loma. He took those belts and he promptly gave them up. I mean, it's like, honestly, I'm going to put it in another sport context. It's like the Steelers, right? Chops, they beat the Bengals on the road, but then they come home and they lose to the Cardinals. Well,
yeah.
Oh, well, wait a minute. No offense to the Cardinals, but it's like it's a game you want to win at home, and you go on a road or a division route and you beat them. Kind of similar thing. I mean, you fight one of the best fighters of at least certainly of the last 10 years in his weight class in Loma, and you beat him. To end up laying an egg against Kambosos is not a good look. So that's where, and the Comey fight, actually, I made a mistake on that graphic. He actually TKO'd Comey, which was impressive.
In the 7th.
Yeah. So that's an impressive win. And beating Loma is impressive. So when I look at the resumes, I actually now Progeris was a nice win by Taylor. That's a nice fighter too. I like that one, but I really, Lopez is capable of the spectacular more than Taylor, but I don't think being spectacular, at least with Lopez's skill set, is going to win this fight. He's got to be aggressive. He's got to be steady aggressive. He's got to be steady scoring. He's going to have to be in the best shape of his life and just constantly make Taylor uncomfortable. If he allows Taylor, to your point, Chas, to be in his phone booth and do his thing and not get outside of it, this fight's going to go to the cards, and it's not going to be a good day for Lopez.
Fellas, if Lopez wins this fight in sort of spectacular fashion, or wins by 3 or 4 points, they're not to knock him out, but if he wins by 3 or 4 points and is true in the clear victor, he may be a fighter who fights up or down to his competition. And I say that because now, again, I think Loma gave away the first 5-6 rounds of the fight, but Lopez got the win. You get up for that, so you beat Loma. You lose to Kambosos, so you got to turn around. Then you get the 7th round TKO, so you're up for that. Now you come back and you look suspect. You know what I mean? You know, against Martin. Mm-hmm. So now he's got to get back. He's got to get back on the grind. He's got to do something. So if he comes out and against Taylor and wins in spectacular fashion, knockout, or is the clear-cut victor, wins by 3 or 4 rounds, I think Lopez might be that type of guy who fights up or down to his competition. And I'm not saying he is, but if that be the case, fellas, that's gonna be hard to sell as the true champ in Phil seats. And I just think so. You know what I mean? You want to know when your fighter's coming out, when the champ is coming out, you know what you're getting. You win or lose, you know what you're getting. And with Lopez, since Loma, we don't know, man. We really don't. We just don't know. So I'm interested to see how this plays out. I really am.
Yeah, as nice of a record as Lopez has, and as decorated as he's been in his career in a short period of time, maddeningly inconsistent. To me, that's inconsistency, and that drives me nuts. It's like, just I'm not saying you need to be on your A+ game every fight, but you can't. It can't be these peaks and valleys. That's going to lead you to trouble.
And fellas, so I asked, is that the corner and his team not getting him ready, or does he mentally just do what he wants?
Freelance.
You know what I mean? Exactly. You just don't know. You just don't know.
Freelancers,
yeah,
not the favorites of coaches.
No, not at all. Not at all. Those, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, the freelancer is very good at writing articles. But when it comes to placing that in the domain of their technique, it usually comes back to haunt them.
Fellas, let me ask you guys something. It's a 2-part question. Both you can answer real quick. Number one, it is on ESPN. It's not pay-per-view, I don't believe.
It's on Plus.
Okay, Plus. Mm-hmm. They're fighting in the smaller arena, right? They're fighting in the smaller arena. Because of that, it's not a pay-per-view. It's not in a big arena. It's not at the Barclays Center, whatever have you. Do you think that boxing knows I don't know how to ask the question, but I know what I want to get. And basically, does that say anything to you? It's not a pay-per-view and they're not in a big arena.
That's a great question. You want to take that one, Coach?
Well, I just find it. I think it's a great point. That's a great question, and one that I think we should investigate here for a few minutes, because ESPN here on Thursday night at 8:00 is running a hype show that is like really kind of an untheatrical kind of like rap battle, so to speak, but like a really bad one. Like they were kind of like, Josh Taylor sounded so canned in some of his digs at Lopez. Lopez was trying to give him some respect, but at the same time throw in kind of some subtleties, like he's got them all figured out and he could do this with blindfolded. So you're getting some of this bravado going out there, which is so Dana White and UFC, so McMahon, WWE, AEW style kind of like hype for a fight that's in the smaller arena at Madison Square, not in the main arena, for a fight that is on Plus, which is kind of in between HBO network television and real pay-per-view. It's kind of a, and they're worthy guys. We just talked about, we talked about, Teofimo Lopez beat Vasiliy Lomachenko. That guy that we talked about that was just in a pay-per-view fight. And what I was gonna what I wanted to ponder, just when I was doing some research the last couple of days, when I knew I was going to have the opportunity to work with you two fine gentlemen, is the winner getting a shot at Haney?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Oh, okay, fella. Okay.
That might be kind of out of left field, but
they'd have two belts, so you'd have to. I mean, it's got to be in the top. You know what I mean? But honestly, unless you see something, one of these fighters does a 180. Who right now who do you think could even give Haney a fight? Are these two? Who would you? I mean, would either one be the favorite? Would either one be even? I mean, now of course Haney will take it for the belt, but neither would. If one of these guys wins in spectacular fashion, maybe that brings money to the table for a Haney Lopez, Haney Taylor fight. But as of right now, fellas, I don't see it. I just don't see it. As of right now, Tank moving up to 140 would bring more money to me than Taylor or Lopez fighting Haney. And think about this: Tank doesn't even have a belt at 135.
The love of the fandom, the fans of the sport are all Tank right now.
Yeah,
that's the guy.
Yeah.
Rightfully so.
That's the guy. I mean, the social. My son and I watched that fight, and I mean, the social media. I mean, social media can be. It was almost electric. Sports can make social media electric. Yeah. And when he knocked him out, I mean, there was an energy in the air across the platforms of social media. People were coming together. Yeah. Tank is that guy. And I think you're right. I think we are talking a little bit. This is beneath Tank a little bit. But if I'm Teofimo Lopez and I beat Taylor, I think I want, Kambosos' corner on the phone.
And you know what? Years ago, Coach, years and years ago, I would have agreed with you because, again, guys had to say to be the best, you want to be the best. If I have a loss, I want to avenge that loss. Now, guys are, where do I get the biggest bag? You know what I mean? Think about how many young boxers we see, fellas, coming up, and their camps are protecting them. I want them to be 15-0, 16-0, 17-0, you know what I mean, with 18 knockouts, whatever it may be. Where years and years ago, we first were watching fights and they had ABC Wide World of Sports and Michael Dokes. Do you remember the Michael Dokes fight?
Oh, yeah.
That was on TV. That wasn't even pay-per-view. You know what I mean? So when those guys fought, the best wanted to be the best. They fought the best. They wanted to say they were best. Now guys are it's more of a business. I get that. But guys don't seem to want to avenge losses like they did before, unless the money's there for them. And the guys camps are protecting guys. I don't know. I'd love to see him want to run it back with Kambosos, but also on the same token, why didn't he already call for that run back? Think about, you know what I'm saying? Even though why it was Fury Wilder 1, draw, run it back. Then Fury wins second one. I'll give Wilder credit. Let's run it back. You know what I mean? I don't understand why Lopez didn't do that for Kambosos. I want this, and make all kinds of noise. I want Kambosos. Because don't forget, Lopez said he tore his esophagus in that fight.
Mm-hmm.
He said, so to me, if you knew you weren't 100%, why are you not asking for that rematch? I just never understood that.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
That's kind of and with Taylor, with a victory, it's win number 20. Okay, 20, and that's a milestone. That's a milestone, and 20-0 at that. It would be interesting to see age 31, 20-0. It's time to make the climb. If it's Taylor, that you need to the next one's not going to be a plus. They're going to be in big arenas. They're going to be in probably Vegas or maybe in London or Paris or big purse, big bouts is what he's probably looking with a victory.
At 31, if he gets this victory, gets 2 belts, I honestly don't think he should be fighting anybody else out of the top 5 for his next. And they should be big purses, huge purses.
Yeah, from now on until he decides to hang him up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Chops, your prediction.
Oh, man. Fellas, I'm going to go with Lopez. I'm going with Timo, and it is nothing more than I cannot give you any actual boxing. I can't tell you boxing reasons why. I can't give you any boxing acumen is why. It is just a gut feeling. I'm going with Lopez. I really am. I'm just going with Lopez. Even though I see more flaws in Lopez game than Taylor, if we were to break it down that way. But and as dumb as it sounds after what I just said, I'm going Lopez. I know it sounds bonkers from what I said. I'm going Lopez.
This is a tough one. This is a tough one. So A game versus A game. So Taylor made a good point. And let's not forget, folks, Josh Taylor is actually the first boxer to unify off the 4 major belts in a weight class. There were several that had been unanimous, undisputed champs with just the WBC, WBA, and the IBF. You add in the WBO into it. Taylor's the first one that unified a weight class at 135, and then he walked away from them for other challenges. So kudos to him. I think they're best versus best. I like Taylor in a narrow decision. However, again, this is like the Haney Loma fight in a way, although not as high profile. But I think my gut tells me ESPN being involved they like Lopez. Lopez has been on the network many times. That's one of their guys. He's younger. He's American. So all things being equal, they go to the cards. I believe Lopez will take this fight. Now, if Lopez does not bring his A game, he will lose, and he might end up on the canvas. I'm going to say that. But I got to think if we see the same Lopez we saw against Loma, it's going to go to the cards. And I think if he can keep the pressure on, I think that, I agree with you, Chops. He'll win. It's going to be a close fight. I mean, it's going to be so close. I'm looking forward to scoring this myself, but it is going to be a close fight. But I'll agree with you. I'm going to go with Lopez. I'm guarding my record here. I've been pretty spot on and picking some.
You have. I'll give you that. You have. I'll give you that. You really have. I'll give you that.
This one's probably the most challenging one that we've done together, guys. And I will go with Lopez on this narrow decision. Could be a split decision.
If I'm Teo Lopez, I'm trying to beat the bait in the first 5 rounds. I want to have a couple of flurries where I win. I'm winning. I win these rounds, and maybe he tried to bait me, and I got it. I ran through the red curtain. I got him. And this fight gets later, which I think the later the fight goes, it definitely bodes into Taylor's hands. He's got that style to keep on, doing those kinds of things. But if he is not winning that fight, rest assured and confidently knows where he may be up on points. If that is ever in doubt, that really sets the stage for Teo Lopez to maybe make some noise even later in the fight when the guys might be a little bit more tired. I will admit this, that I think Taylor is probably the more poised.
Polished. Yeah. Without question.
And I think Lopez has the firepower to do damage, put some dents in on Josh Taylor and win a decision, or do some dents on Josh Taylor and put him on the canvas if some inactivity becomes an issue and he just kind of surprises him like he almost falls asleep. I think this fight, it's weird. It seems like it's a lesser fight than Haney Lomachenko.
Oh, without question.
But it's been hyped up more.
Yes.
So, I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's definitely gonna be fun. I tell you what, that was a great question earlier, Coach. I hadn't really thought about what would be next because, quite frankly, I'm so conflicted on who's even gonna win this fight. I think it's that close, which is what really adds to the drama of this fight. They're two high quality opponents. Now, I brought up ESPN. I'm not a fan of ESPN, but I'm not digging at them per se. But let's face it, if this is on DAZN, I'm probably going the other way.
Yeah. Hold on, fellas. Think about this. Because you just made a point, Drew. You just made a point, right? where you know about how it is hyped up and you were looking at whatever. Okay, think about this. Let's be honest with ourselves. We were hyped up about Haney Loma. We were hyped up about Garcia and Tank. But fellas, all those guys were coming off fantastic showings, looking at the top of their game and ready to bang. The complete antithesis of these guys, yet we're still, and it's great for boxing because they're both coming off performances where they step backwards. You know what I'm saying? They're fighting in a small arena. They're only 4,000. It's not a pay-per-view, but yet the true fight fans are into this. That's got to be great for boxing. In my eyes, it would be. You know what I mean? I think, and again, we're looking at two guys who aren't at the top of their game right now after what they went through last couple of fights, but we're very much excited. And the same, just being honest with you, I'm as excited about this as I was Garcia Tank. I'm excited about this as I was Loma and Haney. I know I'm not going to see the same skill set, but I'm still the same level of anticipation.
Yeah, these are two very, very good fighters. I hesitate to call either one of them great, but they're very good.
Yes, I know.
Well, let's have Saturday be a great night for the sport. Let's have 4,000 people that were going to be the paid attendance down there are out there in New York City. Avoid the poor air quality and stay indoors. Which folks on the east are our eastern friends, and we are in there too. Detroit. Metro Detroit had among some of the worst air quality yesterday as well. Yeah. And may our fine friends to the north, hopefully the folks in Quebec, who are right into this fire zone too. It's been an odd little start to the summer, but but let's stay inside. Let's watch this fight, and let's have it be a good one because this sport has some exciting things going on. Tank and Garcia had a lot of people eyes on it, had a lot of buzz. And Tank is a guy, we need our American warrior, and Tank could be the new young guy to be that guy. Lomachenko, we just saw him lose to Devin Haney. How many more losses does Lomachenko have before his time is kind of up? And where does Devin Haney go from there? Where does Josh Taylor or Teofimo Lopez go from this one? Yeah. So and if Teo can get it done, and basically he and Taylor will have if it goes the distance, they'll have the exact same record. One will be 19-1 and the other will be 19-1. So I mean, exciting things up for this one on Saturday, and may the best fighter win. Hey, Chops, Drew, this has been Andy Shield. It's been a lot of fun. Let's go watch this fight on Saturday.
Appreciate it, fellas.
Take care. This has been the Sports Peninsula Podcast. To subscribe to the podcast, simply click the subscribe button on our YouTube channel's homepage and give us a like. You can also follow our audio podcast on multiple platforms, including Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and Google Podcasts, just to name a few. Give us a follow on Twitter. Our handle is @SportsPPodcast to check out our latest releases. Thank you again for watching and listening. Remember, when you want to hear about sports in the great state of Michigan, there is only one Sports Peninsula Podcast.